I work with a lot of women too. 40-year-old women comes to me. Her hormones are changing, so she's trying to lose weight, and she comes to me eating 1,500 calories, working all day, and not knowing why she's still gaining weight. Well, you're basically telling your body that you're in starvation mode. You have this high stress level that's wearing out your adrenals and your thyroid even faster, but also combine that where you're not feeding your body well enough. We need to do the opposite. We need to build you back up. I know that you really want to lose this weight right now, but we got to make sure that we're getting some calories in you. Not just calories, but good calories, the right types of nutrition to help support your thyroid, things like selenium and iodine.
Hey, voice community. Quick commercial break. Are you running a business and you're looking for a trusted partner to help you brand your business effectively through merch, designs, and branding? I want to introduce you guys to our partners, A+ Branding, a custom printing shop that takes care of all your branding needs. Located in Santa Paula, California, A+ Branding specializes in custom t-shirts, hats, stickers, banners, deco, buildings, or window decals. They do it all. They've helped me a lot personally, ensuring that I am representing my business properly, and I recommend you do too. They have a website that you can design your custom items directly through their online store. You can hop on their site, create your design, and place your order in just a few clicks. Whether you need a single item or a bulk order for your business or event with custom stickers, shirts, or a banner for an event, or even an embroidered uniform for your team, they got you covered. On top of that, they'll ship your order straight to your door. You can use the promo code VOICED to get 10% off your first orders over $100 to get started. You can head over to their website at www.aplusbranding.com and start designing today. Now back to the show. What is up, everyone? Welcome to another episode here at Voiced Podcast. I'm your host, Charles Sabiaga. So, for all my creators and business owners out there, have you ever come across a problem where business isn't the problem, where now it's like, hey, look, my mental aspect is struggling, or maybe your health aspect is struggling? For me, I've always advocated for the idea that how you do anything is how you do everything. So I like looking up to people or speaking to people that can tackle on other topics that help improve those. So in here, I actually have a very important guest for us to discuss his approach working with professionals to help them optimize their performance. For this podcast, we have Dr. Tyler Simmet. Welcome to the show with Fight to Thrive Coaching. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah, I know it's very hot today in this Santa Paula area.
Yeah.
We actually had a what's called a heat wave announcement, I guess, around the area. So, thank you for being a part of the show.
Yeah, really glad to be here. It was a little bit of a sauna session coming in.
I do feel like it's a sauna, honestly.
Yeah, the air conditioning wasn't doing a whole lot,
Yeah.
but excited to be in a little better air conditioning and to be able to talk health and business.
Yes, of course. Yeah. So me and Tyler, we connected through my BNI group referral network through Inner Circle from Thousand Oaks. So just a little background about him. He's a cancer survivor. He was a former active duty in the Army.
Yeah.
Thank you for serving. A physical therapist turned health coach who now uses functional medicine labs and mindset coaching to help people discover and heal from the root cause of their health issues.
100%. You nailed it.
Awesome. Perfect. Awesome. So I'm curious and excited to dive into this thing so that people can understand that, like, hey, look, whatever it is that you're creating, it's more than just that. There's more to it. I've come across coaches who taught the concept of, operating from a 4-dimensional aspect, which is like, it's not just like business and sales. It's also your health. It's your relationship. So again, having people like you and experts who talk about that and specialize in it, I think it's very beneficial for us creators and businesses out here. So for anybody who doesn't know too much about you, can we get a little bit of background about who you are and how you even got started in this business?
Sure. Yeah. So I guess it's hard to decide exactly where to start from.
It's always like that, trust me.
Yeah. But I guess the easiest place to start would be during my time in the Army.
Okay.
And I had met my wife during that time. We were in a program called Army Baylor Physical Therapy. And it's a doctoral program that is tri-service, meaning that it accepts Army, Navy, and Air Force. And so I was in the Army side, my wife was in the Navy, And we met in that program, decided to try to make it work, do long distance, and kind of moved around the country after that once I graduated and became an active duty physical therapist. And during that time, one of the things that I realized pretty quickly was that our healthcare system as it exists is pretty broken. And it wasn't anything that was exclusive to the Army. It's nationwide, and there's a lot of things that are amazing about it. But being a for-profit system, it's basically structured in a way to maximize the profit. The treatments that maximize the profit, things like prescription medication, advanced surgical operations, we're the best in the world at because of that. And so I'm very grateful, for that. But at the same time, we're missing a whole big chunk of what true healthcare is. And what we currently offer is more of a sick care model, meaning that people start to become ill and then they go see the doctor and then they have a pharmaceutical or whatever the intervention may be.
Right.
And it's costing us as a nation billions, if not trillions of dollars annually because of how we're focusing or not focusing on true good health as a society. And so when I was in the military, 2022, I had upper back pain for a while, but I was a wrestler and a football player in high school. And so I kind of wrote it off like, I had a lot of head injuries or, on wrestling, especially you get kind of hit in the head or the neck a lot. Yeah. So I just thought it was because of that. And I was sitting in the classroom a lot all day. And so I didn't think too much about it. But, it started to get worse and it started progressively like move into my arm, like some numbness, tingling and stuff like that. And it had done that for a while, but it was getting more consistent, but at this point I had seen thousands of patients as a physical therapist with similar type of symptoms and just, it never was anything too serious. And so that's just kind of the false assumption that I was making. But I was talking to my boss about it and she said, the MRI machine is right down the hallway. You might as well go get it checked out and see what's going on. So got the MRI, and then as a provider, I was able to go and pull up the image myself. And I did a double take at the name because I didn't think it could be my image because it was this really big tumor that was spanning 4 segments of my vertebrae on the left-hand side, and it was pressing into my spinal cord pretty drastically, indenting about half my spinal cord.
Wow. And
so I came to learn later, because of the subtype of cancer it is as a chordoma, they're typically pretty slow growing. And so my symptoms were pretty mild, I think, because the body is so amazing at adapting that as it was slowly growing, the neurocircuitry was able to move or to adjust how it needed to for my body to adapt well. And so that's why it was kind of this sinister thing that didn't feel like that big of a deal, but was. And so I went to a neurosurgeon, got an opinion, and then got a second opinion. And both of their diagnoses were that it was a benign tumor, that it was growing off the nerve root, and it was nothing to be too worried about, but we should go in and take it out anyways, just to take some pressure off the nerve in the spinal cord and see exactly what's going on with it. Wow. And so went in for that first surgery, and when I woke up from surgery, the surgeon was standing there and he's like, went amazing, we got it all. But we did a follow-up MRI. Turns out he didn't get it all, and it was also cancerous.
Wow.
Yeah, and so it was pretty, pretty big blindside moment, just what just happened, basically.
This was all in 2022?
Yeah. At that point, when I got the first surgery, it was October 2022. And then when I found out the diagnosis of chordoma, it kind of made sense a little bit as to why both surgeons might have misdiagnosed it, because it was just a rare, only 1 in a million people get diagnosed with it, and it's not seen often. And so unless they're the surgeons or the oncologists are used to seeing it a lot, they usually don't recognize it.
How does one, just out of curiosity, I don't mean to interrupt, how does one get this usually from if they've told you?
So it's from my understanding, it develops out of the remnants of the developing spinal cord. In it's called like notochordal cells, and basically some of the cells will like shed off as the spinal cord is developing, and then sometimes it becomes cancerous. And with when I'm thinking back to how long I had the symptoms, it was at least a decade, probably more of like that type of pain. So I think as far as when it started growing, probably started growing when I was a kid, honestly. But I mean, that's all speculation.
Yeah.
But so I got connected with the Chordoma Foundation almost immediately once I had the diagnosis, and they were incredible. Like lined me up with this amazing doctor who kind of specializes in these types of rare tumors. And so I went to New York just a couple months later for my second surgery. And it went really good. I was on the table for like 8 hours though, and so it was like a really rough recovery. I don't even remember how long I was in the hospital. It was like probably a week and a half at least, and then I had to stay in the New York area for like another week, and I couldn't really move much. And it was just it was in the struggle like continued after I got home, where I'm like I used to be in this athletic like go-getter type of person who's out hustling.
You play sports?
Yeah, big time into athletics and stuff, but I went from that to basically couldn't really do anything, but my mind and my brain was trained to like this go. I'm bouncing around like all that stimulation, and so it started to turn into a good amount of anxiety, and a little bit of depression when I was, when you're not able to do much and you kind of down regulates your nervous system. And so when I was thinking about like, okay, what do I have to do? What is my job in this situation? Because the surgeon just did an amazing job. I had to end up go get radiation as well, which is kind of a whole nother story. But I was thinking like, how can I stop this from coming back, or how can I help? Not necessarily how can I stop it, something that's out of my control. And with the medical background that I did have, I know how important my immune system is, right? And I know how the stress that I was experiencing at the time, all it was doing was pushing me further away from healing and prevention, because the immune system is negatively affected by too much cortisol production from too much stress, for example, and other hormones. And it has this really negative like cascade effect on our health when we're stressed out all the time.
Makes sense.
And so the answers in mainstream medicine are medications, which is just kind of putting a Band-Aid on. And I'm not to say that those aren't appropriate. Sometimes those are appropriate and they can help bridge gaps for people, but I didn't like how I felt on it, and it didn't really help me that much. And then I tried some therapy, and that really wasn't helping either. And I had a background in kind of holistic health, and I was like a yoga instructor before, and I had been into like meditation and stuff like that. And so I knew that there were better answers than what I had been given from the mental health side. And so I ran kind of randomly I'm a pretty spiritual person, and so now I don't look at it as random. I like, God put this into my life, but a friend had recommended to me to enroll in this new program called Integrated Mindset.
Okay.
And enrolled in the program. Honestly, my expectations weren't that great. This thing was just released. It was from like a football coach in my hometown who had struggled with some mental health issues himself, who just like dove into studying kind of this mind-body approach, and it gets kind of complicated, but he just mastered it in a way that he connected dots that even though I'd studied a lot of this stuff before, I was never able to connect, and really emphasized the importance of implementing these practices in a consistent way. And so like, cause it's not something where you go do a meditation and then you feel incredible right after. The first time that you do it, it's like compound interest. So you just got to keep putting it in a little bit at a time, consistently over time. And so once I got to about week 4 of that course, I was at a place where I didn't need my anxiety medication anymore. I couldn't drink coffee before because it set off my anxiety. I could drink like 3 cups of coffee, no problem. And I felt like I took control back.
Love that.
It feels weird saying it like that because I took control by learning to let go of the control, if that makes any sense.
No. I think you have the best control when you realize that you know what you can and can't control.
Right.
So essentially, the things that you know that you had no power over, you actually gain control, in my opinion, by saying, hey, you know what? I acknowledge I can't do that, but I can do this.
Right. But the mind really likes to find ways to try to get at least the illusion of control.
Absolutely.
And so like what I like to call the maze, like you get down this line of thinking in something that's out of your control, something that maybe happened in the past or might happen in the future, and then like you let your brain go to all these different places to try to get that sense of, oh, I know exactly how this is going to play out in like 100% certainty. And so ultimately the best answer in opposition to something like that is to learn to bring yourself into the present moment fully and just fully be here and now. And then, because that's all we can control. What are the actions that I can take right now to help towards the solution to this issue? And sometimes there are none. And when there are none, that's when you have to cut it off. That's when you have to cut that thought loop off, because all it ends up being is a bunch of wasted energy and life force that you'll never get back, And so as I was able to really get into this program, I was finding a new level of peace. And then at the same time, I was looking into functional medicine a lot because I was really interested in that side of things too. I had listened to a couple podcasts that kind of piqued my interest and looked into it more, decided to work with a practitioner, and realized that through all this stress I'd been under, my hormones were all out of whack. And I also realized the negative effect that had on things like my ability to like maintain a good balanced blood sugar level, and maintain a good body weight and stuff like all these things that are important, coming back into this idea of not just cancer prevention or preventing a recurrence, but just being the best version of myself. How can we do that and look at things from a preventative side?
Right.
And so, as I incorporated that side of things, the physical side, I was feeling like once I got through radiation and I started fully physically recovering and implementing all these like supplements and mind-body practices and all these other things, I just got to a place where even though things externally outside of me were still chaotic, I was getting out of the Army, we were moving around, things were just stressful. Like having all of this, I went to New York for surgery. I went to Atlanta for radiation. My wife and I were living apart because we were both active duty. And so I had to travel over to stay with her during my recovery from surgery. And so it was a lot of coordinating everything. But internally I felt amazing. Internally, I got to a place, where I had never been before. Nice. And that's where I started to see the cancer in this whole experience as God allowing it into my life in order for me to grow from it in this way. Because I grew more in that short time period than I ever had in my life. That. And that's part of what we talk about in the course too, is this idea that everything is for you. Even the hard things that you can't see, and it brings up difficult conversations with people who have been through unthinkable things. But, thinking back throughout my life, some of the hardest things I've ever gone through, if those aren't there as part of like my stepping stones, I'm not the person that you have sitting in front of you right now. And so now, if I can take that seat of whatever happens, I'm safe. I'm good. And that's what a lot of the program is too, especially the first half of the integrated mindset, is like setting it up in a way where you feel like psychologically safe and in a way that you're willing and ready to step into things that are unknown for you. Because that's the only, like out of your comfort zone, that's the only way that growth can occur. Right. And if we're not continually growing, we're dying. You know, it's
sure.
going one way or the other. We're very rarely just staying stagnant,
Yeah.
or at least it feels one way or the other internally.
Yeah,
And
I think any situations in life, if we don't have the framework that, hey, look, listen, this could either make or break me, we handle it with stress in a negative way. Not to say that stress is always negative, right? But maybe it's meant for you to learn so that you can grow. But however, just like you're saying, and it looks like it's what you do with your program as well, if we're not mentally set up to challenge it or use it as an opportunity to grow,
yes,
then we're kind of in this fearful situation and this scarcity mindset where it's like, oh, if this thing could attack me, nothing is going right for me, right?
yeah, 100%. You nailed it, and you brought up a good point with this idea of scarcity mindset and like that. A lot of people have this thinking, especially because I think we have a more competitive society.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Where, you know, in order for me to win, you have to lose. But I think it's
Or other
actually,
people have to lose, yeah.
yeah, that's what I mean. It's like opposite of the truth of the situation. Like BNI, our networking group, is a great example. Like the more we lift each other up, the better all of us do. The rising tide lifts all sails,
Absolutely.
you know, and trying to lean into that is something that was hard for me because like I was a big wrestler growing up, individual sport, like trying to beat
Competitive,
everyone.
yeah, I
In
imagine.
introverted only child type of situation. So it was not easy for me to just really, you know, dig into that concept and that other side of things. And you had mentioned something else as you were talking about through that. Could you remind me what you said, like to start?
As far as recently, right before this?
Yeah, right before this.
I think mentioning, just things are meant to happen for you, right?
Yes.
That we go through these things,
That's
and
right.
if we're not mentally prepared to or equipped, even, because I think one of the reasons for me that a lot of these problems that I come across and I see other people having, and not to say to downplay people's problems, is that they'll look at these problems and they're like, dude, I've never had these problems in my life. I don't know how to take it on. And oftentimes they will set themselves up for fail. For me, luckily, I've invested in a few coaches in my life who have equipped me with tools and framework to allow myself to see this as an opportunity, which, now, hey, this is no problem. This is a challenge. This is a part of my growth.
Yeah.
Right?
You just reminded me what I was
There you
thinking
go.
about.
I figured it was going to go there.
Yeah. So it's an important distinction because I'm glad that you brought that up. Like not all stress is a bad thing.
Yes.
There's this idea of eustress versus distress. Eustress, like a healthy level of stress that helps push you, to helps get you outside your comfort zone, to get you to that next level. It becomes a distressful situation when you start losing sleep, when you start seeing the negative effects on your health and your body and your mind. And like, it's not an easy balance to find, but like what we try to do in the course is like, imagine like your nervous system is on the scale from 0 to 10 as far as how activated it is or what level of intensity that your nervous system is operating at. Ideally, you're right around a 5 where you're relaxed, but you're still very like focused. You know what I mean? Like that's the best place to operate from in whatever type of performance environment that you want to be in. And so through having a lot of changing the way you think about some of these things, incorporating the mind body techniques, doing reset drills, all these things we talk about take a lot of people from at a 7 or an 8, not even realizing that it's high because it's just become their new normal. It's just where they're used to operating from, just go, and not having that level of balance, but doing these things to bring them down to a 5
For sure.
and keep them there consistently. And now life becomes less of a roller coaster and you can just kind of, ride the calm seas, you know
and
what I mean?
Be more okay with that. And you mentioned earlier, excuse me, how some of these stress, a lot of people frame as a negative thing. I was listening to a podcast where, especially in business, right, people want to frame the stress as a problem, right, and avoid it. When in actuality, without that stress, you probably wouldn't grow anyways. So that's cool, and I love talking to coaches like you because it's a mindset game at the end of it, especially when building a business or even, you know, just for fitness or just trying to be a better version of yourself. It's all a mindset game, right?
Yeah.
So for people who, you know, I mean, I'd love to know, like, if you can kind of go over how your program looks, like, what does a process look like for someone, you know, becoming your client?
Yeah. And so just real quick, like after I went through those two different programs myself, I kind of made the leap, kind of did what I'm talking
Okay.
about as far as going outside of my comfort
Love
zone.
that.
And I got certified to coach in both of these
Nice.
different areas as a functional medicine practitioner and as a integrated mindset coach.
And is that your first like business idea?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will dive into that as well. I'm curious.
Yeah. And so because as much as I wanted to like specialize in just one side, like the physical or the mental, the more that I learned, the more that I realized how tightly interwoven that they are, where like I couldn't separate them. And that's one of the part of the things that frustrated me a little about physical therapy. I love physical therapy and I had an amazing time as a PT in the Army. But, you know, when you're billing insurance, you're supposed to talk about the physical side and focus on that. Yeah, you could spend a few minutes of patient education towards the end, but you can't spend an hour, you know. But and I like to dive deep on this stuff. And so that's when I decided to like take a leap at this business model that hadn't really been proven, but I just wanted to, you know, it's where I felt God was calling me. And so I wanted to just jump in and go for it. And like with this idea that the only failure that exists is not trying, you know,
Wow.
just going
Powerful.
for it. Yeah.
Love that. Love that. Now, as far as like, did you have a coach that guided you to make you realize that, hey, you could be that? Or was that something that you just researched, or how did you come about it?
Actually, the integrated mindset program
Okay.
is kind of what led me there, and I would say in combination with my faith and my spirituality,
Gotcha.
and I was able to, I think, like really grow fast in that time, not only because of the difficulty that I was under, but I had more time because like all I was doing all day was focusing on this stuff because I was on leave from work because of my back and stuff, and so I worked my butt off studying and learning and growing in that way. But then I also went to a retreat like immediately following radiation where it was like a 5-day retreat and like 3.5 was silent retreat. And I can talk a long time about that. And then I did a transcendental meditation certification. So basically what I'm saying is like once I get into something, I like dive deep and I get kind of obsessive in a way. And and so yeah, I really and I have other things now planned to kind of keep growing, and because as I've deepened my knowledge in some of these areas and I've gotten into the coaching side myself and seeing the improvements on the other side, like suicidal people that come out happy, people who've gone through cancer who just want to get back in the workforce and helping them get there.
Love that.
You know, one woman lost her granddaughter and a cancer survivor and was in this like terrible place, like recent cancer, and she became such a huge believer in what we're doing that she came to work for me now. And just like changed her life, you know. And I'm not just saying that. And so as I've seen this thing unfold and seeing God work through us, me and like the other people that I'm working with in this whole integrated business I have going on, it just makes me want to dive deeper and get better and learn more. And I love business because there's so many different aspects to it.
You like learning everything, right?
Yeah, love learning. Yeah, and because you have to be like early on, like I'm in the early stages. I'm in the first year of business. You kind of have to be the jack of all trades. You know, I got to learn social media. I got to learn like email marketing. I've been having to get my coaching better, going to network events, like speaking, podcasts, whatever, like more and more and more. And like, what can grow you more than like
it's fun too.
than this? Yeah, and
it's a little, you know, insane. Sometimes you gotta go a little crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, I imagine too with your tools that you have, with you know the program you've been a part of, it's also supported you as well with the business.
Yeah, 100%. That's been like the biggest thing that's kept me sane. Because I think if I had just gone to open a business before, having these tools, and like you saying, you had coaches and stuff that helped you, like I would have just worked myself into the ground, you know, because there's always more to do. There's always, that list never ends, you know, that to-do list never ends. And so, like I said, I get kind of obsessive sometimes, but now, like, I have these tools where I can recognize when that's starting to happen and when I'm draining myself out. And I know the most important thing is practicing what I'm preaching. That's the most important thing for my business, because if I show up to a call, a sales call or a coaching call with somebody, and I'm not putting off that energy where I'm centered and grounded and happy and joyful and loving and all this stuff, then like, how are they going to believe in the program and what I'm doing?
It's kind of like you're doing a disservice too, you know?
Yeah. And so it's been a difficult balancing act to find that, but it's been the best way to go about it. And I'm not perfect at all times. And that's part of what we talk about too, is like, you got to have compassion for yourself, and your expectations have to be reasonable, and recognizing that at the same time, like, we have all these goals and we're working hard and we're wanting to stay centered and balanced at the same time, and keep our wives happy, whatever else, like, and have this perfect everything. It's not realistic. And so being able to have compassion for yourself and love for yourself, even when you fall short, is so important, because if you don't have that, then it's so much harder to be compassionate for others, you know, and to take that in the situation. So your original question, until I started rambling, the process.
Yeah, I think I'm curious to know. So if anybody is interested, you know, to potentially getting coached by you, or maybe working with you, like, what would that process look like for them?
It varies a little bit depending on the person and what their goals are and how they want to go about it. My kind of main offer right now is combining these two sides of things, where we'll bring in the integrated mindset program, but also the functional medicine work. And on the functional medicine side, again, it varies depending on what you have going on, but there's a set of labs that I work with. And so let's say, you know, we have a 40-something-year-old male who doesn't have the energy that they used to, doesn't have the libido, is storing a little bit more body fat, you know, still wanting to perform at a high level. And they come to me. Well, one of the main things that I want to assess or ask them about is, like, what's your digestion been like? What's your gut health look like? Because that is a highly underrated aspect of our health.
Dude, so crazy. When I started learning about it, I tried to research as much as I could. I still know that I don't know enough. Yeah. But when I start, like, even this, right? When I realized, like, oh, I can improve my health system just by fixing my gut, it made a whole difference.
Yeah. And I could dive, like, as deep as we want on that, but I don't think that's necessary. I think the main thing, though, is to realize, like, there's a clear gut-brain connection, and there's a lot of things, again, within our society that don't do our gut any favors. For example, like, I think antibiotics are often overprescribed, people drinking too much alcohol, things like too much dairy, sugar, wheat, like, all this stuff, especially over time, we'll start to see imbalance in the microbiome, and we'll start to see things like bacterial overgrowth, like yeast overgrowth, and a lot of food sensitivities develop. There's all these different things that we can look for, and then, like, scientifically backed nutrition and supplement protocols to kind of correct what's going on. But where people struggle sometimes with what I'm offering is that they come to me and want me to fix them. And so it's important from an education perspective for me to, again, like, have good expectation management. Like, I'm here to give you the tools. Like, if you're in this hole, I'll give you the ladder to climb out, but you still got to do the climbing, you know. It's on you. And then the other part of my job is to keep people motivated and going. And, like, one of the things I just talked about in BNI yesterday actually is to think about yourself going on this kind of, like, hero's journey. Like, do you want to be a victim and think about how hard you have and all these difficult things that have happened to you, and life is happening to you, or is it happening for you? You know what I mean? And if you can look at it of, like, I want to be the hero of my story, and I'm going to start to make the choices that a hero would make, it's going to impact the people around me so much more positively, if I can take care of my health and I can make these difficult choices to improve my health in like this systematic way that takes time but is well worth it in the long run. Like, and I can have energy, I can sleep better. I've been working out and I can show up for those people around me. How much more likely am I to be able to walk my daughter down the aisle or play with my grandkids longer? And in that way you become someone else's hero. When it becomes like about something bigger than you, it's easier to stay disciplined. So I help people find that and like stay plugged into that and keep them accountable. And so, cause there's a lot of companies are doing these lab tests now.
Yeah.
Where like what we do, we ship them to your house and you complete everything from home and then you ship them back in. And then I get the results as the coach. Well, there's ways that you can do this now where like you don't have a coach, but you just get the results. How beneficial is that really?
I mean, you might know the details, but what do they do with it?
Exactly. They might send back like a protocol to do, but like it's, in my opinion, because I've hired coaches and stuff before, it's so much more effective if you have someone who really knows the nuts and bolts of this stuff and can take you through this in the proper way, systematic way, in order to make it last and make it effective.
Gotcha.
And so that's kind of the lab side of things. So the other part I incorporated with that is when I send them their labs, I send them a 7-day functional medicine detox. Okay. And that's because there's a lot of toxins spread throughout our entire environment, things that are in our water, things that are in our air, things that are in like cosmetics and beauty supplies, shampoos, conditioners, and it just adds up, accumulates over time to where it's more than our liver can effectively filter out, and things that are sprayed in our food. The list kind of goes on and on. And so what the detox does is it helps support your liver, and there's some fasting and stuff, a way where the idea is that we stop filling it up with more toxins as part of like the fast, and then we add in some additional supplements to help support the taking these toxins from phase 2, like a fat soluble stage, to phase 1 where they're water soluble and they can be more easily eliminated from the body. And every single time I do this, because I do it once a quarter now,
love it,
all my health stats jump through the roof. Wow. My heart rate, resting heart rate goes down. My heart rate variability goes up, which is exactly what we want to see. And I just feel better, more energy, lighter. I always lose a little bit of weight, 5 pounds or whatever. And just, and so I use that as like the kickstart to, once we have the lab results back, okay, now you're going to do your detox once we have your whole plan set up and you're waiting on your supplements to come in and to kickstart your whole plan, and then go from there. And then if they're looking for it, we do programming, like workout programming and stuff for them too. And I send like a complete welcome guide that has information on all these different areas of health, stress management, sleep, diet, like mindset, so on and so forth. And I'm actually developing an online course right now to like include with some of that. And
as far as like more like physical activities that they can do to implement that?
Physical side, a little bit of mental and like spiritual, but also I'm going to get more detailed of like just a stress management course or just a weight loss course, for example. And so I'm in the process of developing those right now, but my clients, once they're finished, will have access to all of those. And I think that I'm going to make them available for like individual course purchase as well. And then, so basically, but the whole lab process, it can take some time because they got to wait for that to get to them, and then they ship them back, and then I got to write the program. And so in the meantime, they start off like reviewing the packet that I sent them. Okay, let me know what you see as your biggest weaknesses right now. We're going to get started making some progress on that right now. Also, the people who do sign up for the mindset course at the same time, like while we're kind of in this a little bit of a waiting game, like that's a perfect opportunity in the first 6 weeks or so for us to really hit the mindset side hard. And because what people don't realize with their health, a lot of the times isn't necessarily like what's putting in their mouth. That's more the symptom. Like the issue is deeper. It's deeper in how you're processing your thoughts and emotions and being stuck in the negative thought trap, or like not dealing with your trauma, whatever the case may be. A lot of times the health issues are a result of that. And so the mindset stuff can be so beneficial as we're waiting to see the result, or the results of the labs, to really pick up the momentum quick. And then by the time the labs come back, it's like we're already ready to ready to go if they're putting in the work.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how the main offer rolls, and the whole mindset course is 10 weeks. I keep people on for the health coaching side because I want to see them through the full protocol. I keep them on for 6 months, and once a month Zoom meetings, hour long, and then like unlimited text email support during that time if anything else comes up. And we've been seeing some awesome results. A couple of guys that I have right now that kind of fit that description I gave before are like 30. One's 30 pounds down, one's 25 pounds and stronger, feeling better. And from a weight loss side, I even struggle sometimes to give a number, because how I approach weight loss is, again, more long term. Like, we want to actually put some muscle on you first. You might gain a little bit of weight at first, because what that's going to do when we add some muscle, it's going to boost up your metabolism.
Sure.
And so your caloric expenditure, once we add 5 pounds of muscle on you, your resting metabolic rate might go from burning 2,000 calories a day to 2,300 calories a day. So now when you eat 2,000 calories later, you are not maintaining the same weight. You're starting to lose, even though you're eating the same amount of food and changing the quality.
It's like we're catching up, right?
Yeah.
Getting them to catch up.
But as we can use these supplement protocols and look at all this other stuff through the labs and reduce the inflammation that's going on in your body's no longer fighting against itself. And so even if we didn't do the muscle thing, even if we didn't do any other health changes, but we can just target that side and reduce the inflammation and all the extra work that your body has to do just to maintain normal, like, people will get results just from that alone, So, but like the idea of combining all this, I think, is why we're seeing such powerful results.
Gotcha. From the mindset, but also from the imbalances in their what would you call that? The more biological side, or what would you even describe that more?
Yeah, for the biological side, for sure. It kind of depends. Like, it all feeds back off of each other.
I am curious with this functional approach where you're using test lab. I think I looked on your website by the company that you get the test strips from. When you're measuring these imbalances, I mean, how do you measure the metrics or the results? I'm just curious. Like, how would you gauge that?
Yeah, so it depends on which test. I'll go into one test and just like talk through an example. So the stress, mood, and metabolism test is probably my favorite test. It gives us a ton of really good insight and information. And all these labs that I work with, the company called Ecolife, and all the labs that they use, they don't create the labs. They're using other companies, and the labs that they work with are all third-party tested. And so it's actually doing a good job of measuring what they say they're measuring. So the stress, mood, and metabolism test looks at all your sex hormones, so things like testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, DHEA, which is like a precursor to testosterone and estrogen, and DHEA especially tends to fall as we get older, so I'm seeing that like drop in a lot of people. It also looks at your vitamin D levels, which is important on a variety of levels, regarding your metabolism, blood sugar, immune system, so on and so forth. Looks at your thyroid hormones, T3, T4, TSH, important for metabolism, fighting illness, all that stuff. And then my favorite part of it is it looks at cortisol levels, but most of these tests that you do, let's say you go to your doctor's office and measuring cortisol, we'll look at it at one point in time of like, okay, this morning when I came in, it was this. But this cortisol test, you do a saliva test at 4 different times throughout the day. And so like we can see what it is in the morning, we can see what it is around lunch, we can see what it is in the evening, and then before bed. And we want to see that cortisol typically start high and then slowly like lower throughout the day as melatonin is inversely coming up. But what I'm seeing with a lot of people is kind of the opposite effect, where it's starting low and then coming higher at night. And what that is a sign of is like the adrenals are getting, for lack of a better term, fatigued, like overworked, burnout. And so over time, when we have too much stress, too much cortisol production, it starts to steal the production of things like testosterone or things like thyroid hormone in a way that, okay, now we're starting to negatively affect these other parts of health. And so in a person in that situation, if that's what we're seeing on their results, like I work with a lot of women too. 40-year-old woman comes to me and she's like, her hormones are changing, so she's trying to lose weight, and she comes to me eating 1,500 calories and working all day and go, and not knowing why she's still gaining weight. Like, well, you're basically telling your body that you're in starvation mode, and you have this high stress level, and that's wearing out your adrenals and your thyroid even faster. But also combine that where you're not feeding your body well enough. Like, we need to do the opposite. We need to build you back up. I know that you really want to lose this weight right now, but we got to make sure that we're getting some calories in you, not just calories, but good calories, the right types of nutrition to help your support your thyroid, things like selenium and iodine, and like all your B vitamins. There's digestive enzymes that can help. Like, there's so many different things that we can help that individual. But again, if you just got that test shipped back to you,
you don't have to do it.
yeah, you don't have someone that has done this. Like, I took my wife through that whole same plan, and she's lost like 15 pounds of fat, but put on like 5 pounds of muscle, and her energy is like, wait, she used to have to take long naps all the time, and she's like getting after it. She does 4 hard workouts a week. It wasn't like that at the start. She's been on this program. She started in February. So still, in the grand scheme of things, not that long to get the kind of results that she's had. And she has to live with me. So she has to hear me talking about this stuff all the time.
Good for her.
Yeah. Because as you can tell, like, this is stuff that isn't necessarily just my business. Like, this is my life. Like, I felt like I just got sent on this mission, and like, I wake up fired up about it.
Love
and
that.
I go to bed fired up about it and dreaming about it. So
I could feel the passion for it for sure, and the drive for it.
Awesome.
Now, I'm just curious. I mean, I know you mentioned now like how you're measuring some of these levels of hormones. Would you even say? Can you give a little bit of example? Because I want people, because I had an idea, like the reason why I had you on this podcast, because I knew that, and I don't know everything, right? And I'm not like an expert, but I try to dabble and pick people's brains. And one of the things that you mentioned a while back is some of their hormones or imbalances affect their performances. Now, I know obviously you're also integrating the program from integrated mindset, right? As far as like from the physical aspect, from their hormones, when you get that back, how have you seen some of these past levels of hormones affect their performance or energy in life, and how have you helped them?
yeah, so I think for men and women, it's obviously different.
Yeah, for sure.
For men, what I'm seeing the most commonly is, well, actually, it's funny because I'm seeing 2 different sides of this. Issues with testosterone, right? DHEA starts to drop, testosterone actually starts to drop. We have stress, testosterone starts to drop even more, even like more than just like how age naturally brings it down. And so, that is obviously going to affect things like your mood, things like your libido, your ability to put on muscle, which affects your ability to lose weight, and all these things that are really important to perform at your best, at your peak state. But I've also seen the flip side of that, where, okay, people recognize that this is a problem, and so then they go to traditional medicine, and then they get hormone replacement therapy. And sometimes it's fine. I have a whole lot of thoughts on that. I'm not going to get into that right now, but I've had people that are pretty young that are doing this, and their free testosterone is through the roof. It's too high, right? And they don't need to be on this stuff, or they at least need to dial it back. And then now your body is becoming fully dependent on you taking this external form, and it's not producing it internally, where you become dependent, somewhat dependent on it. And so it's again a quick fix answer to what should be a multifaceted solution. What are you sleeping like? Sleeping is so important, in getting the right amount of deep sleep and REM sleep, not just for testosterone production, but your natural growth hormone production, which is really important for performance and also like anti-aging and things like your skin. It's not just about like being a jacked up like yoked dude. This stuff is important for men and women, and getting enough zinc, for example, or what is the other one? There's a few like natural supplements that are really important, or minerals and things like that are important to keep up, which we can also see on like the hair tests that we use, like where your mineral levels are at. They can naturally improve your test. There's just a lot of other ways that we can go about it from a lifestyle and a supplement perspective versus jumping into hormone replacement therapy, because that same guy where it's through the roof, his cortisol levels are also spiked and his thyroid is out of whack. And so he's been dealing with all of these like sickness, illnesses, and energy issues because he's on this hormone replacement therapy. I don't say that he doesn't need to be on, at least he doesn't need to be on at the level that he's at. And it's frustrating for me, but at the same time, yeah, I get passionate and empowered about it because I'm offering an alternative, and I've worked hard to do it, to make this thing happen and to kind of follow my heart with it. And it hasn't been an easy thing to get off the ground, but like now that it is, and I'm picking momentum, seeing client results, it's like I just want to keep growing it, and I want to bring it to more people, as many people with the right mindset, or at least that are willing to do the work to get into the right mindset, to change their lives, because it has a chain effect. Right. Changes the lives of people around them.
For sure. And then you said women too has a different
direction as well. Yeah, I mean, testosterone is still important for women. It's still like something that should not be like scoffed at, or you should be taken seriously. But progesterone tends to be a little bit more important. More specifically, getting a good balance of estrogen and progesterone. We look at estradiol as like the form of estrogen that we measure, which is like the main form of bioavailable estrogen in the body. And even if your estrogen is normal, but your progesterone is low, we'll see symptoms of estrogen dominance, like difficulty losing weight, a lot of bloating, low libido, mood, like irritability, stuff like that. And so, yeah, we try to naturally, kind of the same thing, naturally bring up the progesterone levels through supplementation, through all the lifestyle factors. And then I'm not saying like I'm 100% opposed to the conversation of hormone replacement therapy. Again, like prescriptions for mental health issues, there's a time and a place. But let's at least give me a good 6 months, or 4 months of trying this other approach, because like you and your body will thank you for it later if you can go about it that way.
So this is more of like a holistic approach before you start going to the traditional medicinal route.
Exactly.
Fixing or curing these symptoms.
Exactly.
That's cool. Awesome. I think obviously, we could dive into this thing, but like that's the reason why you also had your podcast recently, right? So if you guys want to tune in and hear more about Dr. Tyler Simmet's content on, his advice or tips on this, or just addressing any of these issues or symptoms, he does have a podcast, also has a website. You want to give them a link to that, so where they can find it?
Yeah. So my website is Fight to Thrive Health, and that's fight, the number 2, and then thrivehealth.com. And there's a link on the upper right to like the podcast on there. The podcast is also called Fight to Thrive. Okay. So pretty easy to find. I just got it started back up. I had started it when I was in the military. Kind of long story around that, but basically it's all the stuff I was talking about then still applies. So I just kept the same page, same episodes, and now I'm 2 episodes into like the revamped version of it.
Love it.
And
hopefully this is a direction to the kick up.
yeah, exactly. And how I'm kind of at least currently operating with it is that I'm alternating. Like, okay, last week was a more physical side, digestive health, like kind of a quick hitter, and then this next week's gonna be more on the mindset side. And keeping them fairly short, like 20 minutes, and just trying to keep it more practical. Like what are I get the knowledge, but then what can I do with it? And trying to actually go in and implement, incorporate it into their lives.
Like that. I mean, as a marketer, I think that's a great idea also, because you give value, it gives them something to work with. And then obviously if they decide, hey, you know what, I want more of this in my life and I need a hands-on.
Yeah.
And they find someone like you that can get that across. So
Yeah,
thank you for sharing your process.
Of course. Well, part of my mission, because I know not every.
We're gonna dive into that, by the way. Just
Okay, yeah.
So you're on the right track.
But not everybody can afford to work with me one-on-one. Like, I recognize that, and so something like the podcast, I can at least start to help those other people, that can't work with me directly, social media podcasts, whatever. Like, I want that to be a part of what I'm doing too.
I love that. I love that when people start to give out free. I've always been a fan of just giving out free content, because I understand that not everyone can have access to you. Not in a like a ego boosting kind of way, but more so time is so limited, right? So with your mission to help people out with this thing, I mean, do you want to what's your whole like vision for what you're doing? I mean, just if you can share from a macro scale.
Yeah. Man, it's kind of tough to summarize because there are so many like factors to it. I think if I could just really dial it in, as far as my main mission, is that I have so much gratitude for what God has done in my life. The people he's put in my life, from a coaching perspective, the mentors I had growing up, where I was able to grow up, and how I was able to grow through. He helped me grow and like survive through this really difficult time, that I just want to give back. I want to let his love like work through me to my clients and listeners and whoever else wants to improve their health in their life. I want to, again, provide that ladder to people and try to help pull them up out of the hole, because I've been there, and it sucks when you don't have a ladder and you don't know what to do. And so if I can do that, and help to do something like I'm doing right now and shine light on God and through the process, I can't think of anything more fulfilling, than that. And because like also health is like, this is stuff that I've been interested in, Charles, since I was like 10 years old.
Really?
Like I was big into wrestling, so I started looking into nutrition and like keeping lean and like workouts, and this is stuff I was like, back in dial-up internet that I was looking up. And so
wait, how old are you?
I know, yeah, 33 now, so getting up there.
Damn, I thought you were still younger.
Yeah, thank you. I take that as a compliment.
It is.
Yeah, and
The
so
energy.
yeah, and so it, like, the way I see it and what I'm doing now is just stepping into, like, I've always been on this like road to get here, but I'm stepping into my full purpose and potential, and like fully living it out. And the only way that I did that was to actually get out of my own way, to again let go and let God and let Him show me. And ever since I've found Christ, which wasn't my whole life, it was in college, and I've just kind of let Him do that and kind of guide me, and it's led me to this place where I'm at right now, where I know that if I can do live up to the potential of this business by just integrating all this stuff more myself. It starts within me and internally, and that's how we kind of work from the mindset program. Internal first, external second. Like, the external and reaching our goals and stuff is still important, but I have to come from a healthy place and to maximize like my internal and my spirituality, my physical health, my mindset, like all this stuff. If I can do that and go about this the right way, I want to grow the business. I want to add more coaches. I want to bring this concept to as many people as I can. And again, not just help those people I'm working directly with, but help their kids, because they were a better dad, because they worked with us. And then, that causes this chain effect, this generational potentially effect. But it's all because it started from the source. It all started from what's in my heart, and that's Christ working through me.
I always believe that it takes one person at a time, and if we start within ourselves to execute or operate or, let God or whatever anybody believes in help you get to doing those stuff, within yourself and pass on to others, then it slowly molds and you create the world that you feel that you deserve, that you get to be a part of,
Yeah.
and it comes from that gratitude.
Yeah, but it also requires, I believe it requires some sacrifice, and it shouldn't feel easy. The whole thing shouldn't just like come to you naturally.
No.
It should feel like you're stepping out. You're stepping outside your comfort zone.
Love
You're
that.
getting into that area of the void, but happiness to me is a very interesting conversation because I think that a lot of people view it as a destination, something that they're going to be happy someday when they have X amount of money, when they don't have to work anymore, when they have X amount of kids. But there's always that next thing. There's always going to be something else, and that's part of how we're naturally hardwired is for growth. Like there's always going to be that something. And so
Desire.
Yeah.
We're always going to have desire.
And you have to channel that, but also at the same time, like recognize that part of being happy and like in true satisfaction in life is by putting in the work, by doing these things that are difficult and then coming out on the top of the mountain, on the other side of it. But in order to get there, the struggle is required. But you don't have to be, while you're going through the struggle, while you're climbing the mountain, you don't have to be miserable. You can enjoy it. Like you can enjoy the climb. Like it might be a different type of fun, like a little type 2 fun where where you're on your hands and your knees, but like bring people alongside with you. Have a good conversation like we're doing right now. Me and you trying to grow our businesses and taking the time to step back and do things like this. It's fun. And like I'm having a good time. It's like I've been up on a bunch of calls this morning doing social media content. Like it's been like a whirlwind. Got up at 4:30. But I'm loving it, man. Like I'm loving it. I'm loving this journey and I'm loving the growth associated with it. But it doesn't come free. Like you have to earn it, every day. You got to wake up and earn it and like be consistent, do the practices. Like what we preach is to start with those practices. Like I start with my breath work. I start with my meditation every day. Especially when I don't feel like it. Those are like the most important times for me to do it.
I need to get back into those other practices that I used to do, things that you mentioned.
Yeah, man, you should. But that's like a long-winded answer to your question.
Love it.
Just I just want to improve the lives of others through health and wellness, and I'm doing that through putting my heart into every piece of my business.
Love that. And thank you for sharing. I always love hearing people's macro vision, or just like what's that calling for them that gets them up in the morning, right? And then you mentioned something too earlier right now, which was that you have to work for it. And this is something that helped me frame it better, that to stop procrastinating, or don't let yourself get too beat up for your losses or whatever. It's that every action that we're taking towards the things that we desire is putting us in that direction. Whether that's a fail or a bump in the wall or whatever it is, like you're technically already there. It's just that time hasn't caught up yet. So whatever that gift is for you, maybe you feel like you have a gift that's been given to you, right? Like you can't just get it. You have to go off with it and take the necessary actions, because if that gift was meant for you, and you have to live the lifestyle.
Yeah, 100%. Right? Or if there's themes in your life, right? Like if things keep happening over and over again, you end up in the same type of relationship, or like, you start making progress, but then just like pull yourself back, or something happens even that like keeps you where you're at. That's almost a signal to me. That's a signal that the universe is sending to be like, something's got to change. Like if you just keep doing the same things, this same thing is just going to keep happening. And over time, that signal is just going to get louder and louder. And again, you can play the victim, or you could play the hero and step up and do the work to get outside of the comfort zone, to actually just do the damn thing and make the change. But sometimes you don't know what to do. And that's
Exactly.
like why I'm here, is to help people, help guide them into where the change needs to happen.
Yes, sir. Love that. Love this inspiring talk. It's definitely this is why I love doing this thing. I get to have conversations with individuals like you to remind me of why I continue to do these things, So, but yeah, no, I think you've also mentioned a little bit about, how what things you're looking forward to. I mean, you recently relaunched your podcast, your website. You've been on it. You're in social media. You're trying to build the courses, and you said it yourself. You want to build up your coaches. What are some things, from all of this that we're talking about that you're looking forward to?
All of it. Honestly, all of it. I want to bring on more people like yourself, like not obviously like into my company, but like to help with some of the stuff that you're great at. Because what I've recognized pretty quickly in this is that as I try to grow this thing, in order for that to happen, I need to be most focused on what I'm really good at, what my unique role, what God prepared me to do in this business and in this life. And the more that more time and energy I can spend on that, growing my knowledge base and how to, connect with people better and motivate them, inspire, and do the work that's most important, then the better, the more I'll be able to impact other people, and the better the business will do, because like I could go study for 2 years and not be as good at creating content as you are. And so if you come in and create content for me, then that is obviously going to do amazing things for my marketing, and people getting a full understanding of exactly what I'm doing. This podcast is a perfect example.
Thank
right?
you.
And so that's just one example of a lot of different areas where I want to bring more people in. And then I think as I do that and can focus more time and energy on what I'm really good at, the path to growth will become clearer.
I love it. And you said this is your first year in business?
Yeah.
Man, you're like the speed is just crazy for you right now from what I'm hearing. But okay, cool. I think we got a lot of details for this thing. I know, again, I appreciate you for taking the time driving out from Newbury Park out here to San Paulo to come check out this studio in this very hot times.
Yeah, man, it's been a lot of fun. I anytime we should, again, maybe like me and Dr. Mike will team up on one sometime.
Oh yeah, no, actually, yeah. I don't know if you got the chance to listen to his podcast, but that was also pretty amazing. We had a lot of insights breaking down the nuts and bolts of his specialization and services. But also, I love having these conversations because, again, like for me, I don't know everything. Yeah, I may be good at certain things that I'm really good at, but I like to surround myself with people who are knowledgeable of what they do, of things that can support me in the long run. So I'm very grateful to have you in my circle and in my network as well. So if you guys are interested, make sure you check them out. So if people are interested, where can they find you? Or maybe they can potentially book a coach, or a consultation.
Yeah, for that, the best place to reach out on would probably be Instagram.
Okay.
Yeah, at Dr. Tyler Simmet, DrTylerSimmet. And just shoot me a direct message, and then we'll go from there. There's also on my page, you can go to my link tree, the link in bio, and there's like a link to book a call in there, like a 15-minute call. You can go straight to that.
Love it.
And that's also on my website.
Okay, I'll make sure to drop that link as well. Well, thank you again. Before we go, I have one question. Before you were diagnosed, right? What do you think that previous version of yourself would say to you now if they saw how you're doing?
Pre-diagnosis version would say to me right now.
Yeah, I mean, you were pursuing a physical therapy career in the military, right?
Yeah.
So at the time, like, he sees you now doing this business work, and you're delivering a powerful, purpose-driven
goal. Yeah, I think that the most important aspect of this conversation that he would be, it's weird to talk about myself in third person.
I always like asking these type of questions just to get people in the different framework.
That older or younger version of myself would be happy about was like how much glory that I've given to God in this conversation, because in my past that has not been the case. It's been more about everything that I've done and creating pride in myself and my accomplishments and taking ownership as it's all me, but it's all him. Like all of this and everything I'm doing is all through him. And the young me would be happy to hear that that's how I'm acting, and that I've continued to follow his path that he has for me.
Amazing. I love it. Well, once again, thank you for joining me on this podcast, Dr. Tyler Simmet. Did people call you Dr. Tyler Simmet, or did you go Dr. Simmet? I'm just curious.
Dr. Tyler usually. Yeah. Yeah. Pretty chill with my clients. I actually just prefer to call me Tyler.
Okay,
Honestly.
cool.
Yeah.
Okay, again, thank you for joining us on this podcast. I had a very pleasurable moment just speaking about this stuff. I hope that people who did listen took some notes and maybe, ask you questions along the way as well that can help them in their journey. So, yeah, thank you once again.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's been great getting to know you, and looking forward to continuing our relationship, and really appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. Cool. Well, for anybody tuning in, we'll see you guys on the next episode. Hey, Voice community, thank you so much for being a supporter of this platform. Our goal is to establish a platform where we can represent voices that empower others to be more, do more, and have more. We advocate for a message to voicing what matters. Through our platform, we dedicate our content through the voices of creators, leaders, communities, and organizations. We vocalize messages and stories representing aligning values through many people's stories. We want to provide content for others who feel like they have no voice or don't feel like they have a direction, feel lost, or need guidance. And through others' voices, we believe that everyone is deserving to pursue a lifestyle that they get to create. We appreciate any support you give to keep our platform growing. If you find value in the content we put out, you can subscribe to our channel or follow us on the podcast platform you're listening to. It really does go a long way, so we appreciate every help you can give us. Thanks again for supporting our platform. We hope to see you guys on the next episode.